The Matrix Resurrections is the perfect distillation of Baudrillard's alleged critique of the first film. At long last, Resurrections is a one-to-one replica of Baudrillard's Desert of the Real, and everyone resents it, except me. We find Thomas Anderson back on the treadmill, the inevitable conclusion to the wheel of time rolling ever onward. Anderson suffers from dissociative episodes, having channeled his experiences as Neo into a series of successful video games called The Matrix. We're better to bury truth than somewhere as ordinary as a video game. To deal with these feelings and confusion, he consults with his therapist. After bumping into Tiffany, a woman with striking resemblance to Trinity from his games, Anderson stops taking the blue pills, his quote-unquote medication. Smith, the colossal hair-gelled corporate douchebro, demands another Matrix game be made, but Anderson doesn't have the juice or the inclination. Making another would be a tireless, heartless exercise. And so where the first trilogy positioned the film against our reality and the desert of the real against the Matrix, this new film positions itself against the previous trilogy, which is positioned against Io, which is positioned against the new Matrix. In this way, the story untethers from our reality and becomes Baudrillard's supposed hyper-reality. The only vector in the film is what can be synthesized from the previous films, and not even that against the pictures proposed as video games diegetically, a copy of a refraction caught out of the corner of your eye when passing a mirror in the small hours before dawn. You can't quite say why, but everything looks just a little bit wrong, doesn't it? Neo's true past stutters into view, single moments of almost recognition. Trinity's face, Agent Smith's interrogation, old faces, memories decayed and decaying. The worst is that when Neo feels something is amiss, the world is constructed to dismiss his concerns. No one will engage with him critically save his Analyst, the new architect of this matrix, exploiting humanity's suffering for energy. There is a certain kids really are on their phone a lot attitude the story develops that isn't entirely wrong. The Analyst matrix is the world of smartphones and social media, buzzwords and acronyms. No one at Neo's office talks like a person. They vocalize text messages and Reddit threads, and the second you step a toe out of line, the swarm descends, cancelling out your very existence, or worse, rendering you an exile, a relic of the past, howling through gritted fang about how things used to be better to a vacant audience. If the social is predicated on its exclusions, in Resurrections, this new matrix is about holding your attention long enough to make you suffer. This, the Analyst explains, produces more energy, more profit for the machines. It's only unplugged that Neo experiences this.
It's so easy to forget how much noise the Matrix pumps into your head until you unplug.
Yeah.
Where the original trilogy concerns itself with the creeping destruction at the hands of late-stage capitalism and the gradual turn toward conservative consumerism as the dominant social mechanism, this reincarnation is forced to contend with the calcification of these problems in modernity, the obliteration of meaning into the super-reality of social media. The endless cycle of disagreement, sensationalization, and iteration on the new Matrix game development is what eventually pushes Neo off the literal edge. The feeling of being the only real person in a world of machines. Then over time, they drop little hints that they're not real.
They say things that aren't true. They throw little sparks, repeat themselves. There's a cylinder inside them with a pattern of bumps that make music. You're keeping them alive by winding them.
And then when you meet another person, and it all becomes so simple. This is true. The other person isn't one of them, they are real as well. This raises the core inevitable concern of the film and frankly life itself. Why does it exist? Why do more?
I'm sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy.
What?
They informed me they're going to do it with or without us.
I thought they couldn't do that.
Oh, they can.
The temptation to reduce the motivation to money, while true, fails to appreciate the magnitude of what's happening. Objects produce and exert pressure on us just as ideology. That Warner Brothers owns The Matrix puts a kind of structural momentum onto the company. One that will always be there, the kind of mild headache that comes and goes until one day it matriculates into a migraine. You've no choice but to do something about it already. While slowly losing his grip on the real, Neo is ripped from this new Matrix, only to learn that after his death, things did not magically fall back into place. The crew of the Nemesis argue with Niobe, insisting they free Trinity to no avail, and so another repeated cycle begins. Words ring on deaf ears, and Neo rebels. In some ways, Resurrections is less about the world-saving acts of insurrection, but rather small rebellions of the heart. Neo refusing to make a sequel, Smith naming Warner Brothers as the motivation behind this new project, Trinity pursuing her passion for motorcycles, Niobe giving in to nostalgia. Most astonishing is that such victories amount to very little of interest. The film goes on at moments feeling like that because it is a film. There's some immaterial, slippery, not quite real faith that is not present in this story. As a godless teenager, I attended Catholic school for a short time. One Christian brother refused to engage with me because he knew I'd never believe, not even in the contemporary sense. I'll just never get it, so why waste his time explaining, he told me. He did the opposite of respecting me, and so I started taking communion for the remaining 2 masses before I went back to reality. I'll never forget the power his rejection held over me, and to an extent still does. The lack of pathos is toe-curling. I live in envy of such damage. That very same knife blade disregard Resurrections has for the faithful.
That's the thing about stories. They never really end, do they? We're still telling the same stories we've always told, just with different names, different faces. I have to say, I'm kind of excited. After all these years, to be going back to where it all started. Back to the Matrix.
In the end, what remains of the film's many allegories and references is the connection between Neo and Bugs, Neo and Trinity, Neo and Morpheus, Bugs and her crew. If the film supposes that social media is devouring our reality for profit, then the solution is connection, community, trust, love, the feeling of a hand closing around yours, the warmth of being pulled into an embrace, arms locked around each other, the small rebellions of the heart. These same questions that run through the first 3 Matrix stories are here, but like everything else, they look different, feel slightly off. Nothing can quite overcome the orbital velocity of the original trilogy, and so we're left drifting in the dark, circling what was and what could have been. Additional information and sources can be found at zeroindent.com. This video was made in collaboration with A Method to the Madness. You can listen to our detailed discussion of the Matrix quadrilogy by following the link in the show notes. This week I got a little tipsy and watched all 4 of my Matrix essays and provided a director's commentary. You can find it for free at patreon.com/zeroindent.